Happy holidays, my beautiful bee nips. My name is Brandyisadora. In this video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to make these super cute bottle brush trees. This is the first in my new holiday DIY series. I hope you guys enjoy. So the main supplies for this project are going to be sisal rope and wire. You want to make sure that the rope is sisal rope. It should say it on the rope. And the wire, you want it to be strong enough so that when you twist it, if you twist it, many times, it doesn't just break off, but you don't want it so strong that you can't twist it. So find a happy medium in between. So we're going to start by grabbing the end of our rope and measuring out what you would want the widest part of your tree to be, which would be the bottom part of the tree, and multiply that by 2 because we're going to end up cutting this later. So go ahead and mark where you would want the tree to be and then double it. Go ahead and cut the rope. This rope is really hard to cut. I ended up having to use kitchen scissors, the ones that are meant to cut like chicken bones and stuff with. So once you have your sisal rope cut out, unravel it. And the easiest way to unravel it is to just grab both ends and twist it. So you're going to want to twist it in opposite directions of the way that the rope is naturally twisting, if that makes sense. So as you unravel it, I like to comb through it because it has some pieces of pulp that are stuck to it since it is a natural fiber. But honestly, I would recommend doing that while the sisal is wet and after it's been conditioned. I just forgot to do that, so I ended up conditioning the sisal after I had already wrapped it around the wire. So if you can, condition the sisal first and then brush out any of the pulp that's in it. So now once you've unraveled all of your sisal, you're going to want to cut it at a diagonal. You want to measure out 1/3 of the width of the sisal and cut it at a diagonal there. That way the bottom half of the sisal that you just cut is smaller, so when you bring them together, it naturally just tapers down into the shape of a Christmas tree. Now go ahead and measure out your wire and make it 3 times as long as you would want your tree to be. Then fold it in half and wrap the folded end around a clothespin and then twist it off. So now that the top part is twisted off around the clothespin, what you're going to want to do is grab a small bushel of sisal. And you want to make it around the size that you see me here. You don't want to make it any bigger than this because then it'll be, weird when it's twisted later. So with your left hand, you're going to want to hold the bushel as tautly as you can to the bottom of the wire. So the side that's closest to the clothespin. And then with your other hand, you're going to wrap the wire around the bushel in a clockwise motion. So as you're pulling the bushel of sisal as tautly as you can, you also want to pull the ends of the wire as tautly as you can so that it's wrapped as tightly as you can possibly get it to be. And then you're just going to keep wrapping it like this by moving the wires in a clockwise motion. So you'll get a little bushel. Each bushel is going to be around the same size. Don't try to keep them all like an equal size, and then just keep wrapping by pulling the wires around in a clockwise motion. Once you've finished wrapping all of your sisal, or you have your tree to the size that you would like it to be, what you're going to do is make sure you've pulled it as tautly as you can, and then grab each end of the wire, and you're going to want to wrap it around another clothespin. If it's too hard for you to do by hand, you can use pliers to make it a little bit easier. But once you've wrapped each end of the wires around the clothespin, you're going to want to twist the wires again. So you're going to hold each end or hold each clothespin in one hand and pull tautly as you twist. So you're going to pull each end apart and twist in the same direction that you were twisting earlier. So you're going to want to do your right hand like righty-tighty and then your left hand in the opposite direction. So you can see me here, just pull both ends as taut as you can and just twist it. And you're going to want to keep twisting until it looks like the fibers have spun evenly all the way around and it resembles more of a tree shape. Before you remove the clothespins from the wire though, you're going to want to trim this to kind of make it look more like a tree and make sure that you're okay with the shape because it's really hard to twist it once you've taken the clothespins off. So go ahead and trim it. So once you're done trimming the tree and you're happy with the shape of the tree so far, you can go ahead and remove the clothespin that's on the top of the tree, but only remove the clothespin that's on the top of the tree right now. So wherever the sisal ends at the top of the tree, just leave another centimeter of wire. You do not want to cut the bottom of the wire yet, because you are going to use that extra wire to hang the sisal tree after it's been conditioned and dyed. Now this is a vase that I filled with hot water and conditioner, and again, I should have done this in the beginning, I just forgot to. So what this does is it makes the sisal forget the twisted shape that it's in so that it can straighten out. So I just soaked the sisal in hot water and conditioner for like 5 minutes, and then I brushed it out to get any, again, and it is a natural fiber, so sometimes it does have some pulp that is still stuck to it. Some pulp that is still stuck to it. So you can see me right here, I'm like using my nails to scrape off some of the fiber, or not fiber, some of the pulp from the fiber, so that it looks a little bit cleaner. So once it's been conditioned and the fibers are straight again, it's much easier to trim the tree and get a better idea of what it's going to look like. So go ahead and continue to trim the tree as you go along, just to make it, you know, a little bit prettier, more of a tree shape for yourself. So once I finished trimming it, what I did is I decided to color the tree, and I want it to be a pink color. So I just, again, in the same vase, I put some hot water and I put a few drops of food coloring in it, or this one's soap coloring, but it's vegan, it's food grade. So I just put a little bit of lavender and a little bit of peach. And I wanted it to be pink, but the reason I put lavender in there is if I just put the peach in there, it would be like a really fluorescent peach. So the lavender just tones it down to make it more of a muted pink color. And then I used the extra wire at the bottom. I just bent it over into a hook shape so that I could let it hang and dry overnight. Once it's dry, you can snip off the ends of the wire, but you want to leave at least an inch on the bottom, not only to hold the tree in place, but so that there's enough of the wire so that you can insert it into a stand, whether it be a piece of wood or a piece of cork. Right now we are venturing out into the wilds of my backyard to find a branch that I'm going to use to make the stand of the tree. So I just used a handsaw and I sawed off a piece of this dead tree. Because there's no way I would have done it to a live tree. So I sawed off this piece of the dead tree, and then I ended up cutting it in half. So once you've got your pieces of wood, decide which one you want to use for the bottom. I decided to use this piece because I liked the slope that it had. It looked more like a natural tree trunk to me. Then I used my Dremel tool, and I drilled a hole into the center of the trunk where I was going to glue the base of the sisal tree. Alright, so once you've drilled your hole, you want to make sure that the stem fits inside there. And if the hole is too wide, it's okay. For me, that was the smallest bit that I had, so the hole ended up being a little too wide. It's okay, all you gotta do is bend the bottom of the wire and it makes it a little bit thicker. And even if it's still too wide, the glue will still hold it in place. So what I'm doing here is I'm just using the pliers to bend the wire. Then I tested out the length of the wire again and made sure that it sat pretty inside the trunk and that it wasn't too long. I just wanted to make sure that the branches touched the bottom of the trunk. So then I used the hot glue gun to pipe glue straight into the hole that I made into the trunk. And then I put the wire inside of the trunk and made sure that it stood up straight. So now that your tree stands up on its own, you can get a better idea of what it looks like, and it's easier to see if it has any patchy areas that need to be filled in. So to fix the patchy areas, what we're going to do is cut another piece of sisal fiber, and you want to condition it and dye it so that it matches your tree. Once it's been conditioned and dyed, you want to set it out to dry, and once it's dried, you can make little bushels that we're going to use to fill in the patchy areas. So we want to grab bushels of fiber that are around the same size that we initially wrapped around the wire, and you want to tap it onto your desk or whatever area you're making them on so that the bottoms lay flat and even. Once you have tapped it and it's as even as you can get it, you want to trim it again just so that they're super even and all of the ends of the fiber are aligned so that when we glue the ends together, there's not really that many stray fiber hairs. So use your glue gun and glue the ends together. You want to make sure that you're pressing the glue gun in between the fibers so that all of the ends of the fibers are coated. And then wet your fingers and use your left thumb and ring finger to pinch one end of the fibers, and use your right ring finger to press them together so that you get them tightly packed together and they start to fan out a little bit. So once you've done that and the glue is dried, you want to snip off the excess glue that's at the end of the little bushel that you've just made. So go ahead and do that with all of your fibers, and then what you want to do is lay your fibers out so that you know which ones are thicker and which ones are finer, so you know how you want to position them inside of your tree. So now that you've looked at your tree and you have all your bushels arranged, you can start to glue them into the base of the tree. So you want to glue them as close to the wire as you can, but before you glue them you want to snip it so that as little of the glue part is showing, and then glue them into the base of the tree. So as you start gluing them around, you want to trim them as you go. That way you get a better idea of what the tree looks like. If you wait until the end, the tree is going to look a little bit wonkier than if you just trimmed as you go along. So go ahead and fill your tree until you're happy with the way it looks, and then just go ahead and trim it until you've got it in the perfect shape and you think you are done with it. When you're trimming it, make sure that you're looking at it from both a straight on angle and also a bird's eye view. When you're looking at it from a bird's eye view like it is right now, it's a lot easier to make sure that your tree is perfectly round all the way from the top to the bottom. And when you're looking at it from an angle, it's a lot easier to see that it's coming up at a perfect slope. So make sure that you're looking at your tree in both directions when you're trimming it, just to make sure that it's even all the way around. And that's it. Once you're done trimming it, your sisal brush tree or your bottle brush tree is done and ready to be used as a decoration. With how easy it is to buy mass-produced, manufactured items, we hardly get the opportunity to pass down handmade items through generations. But hopefully with this well-made bottle brush tree that will stand the test of time, one day your grandchildren will be able to say that their grandparent made this Christmas decoration. Hey beautiful bean nips, I hope you guys have a wonderful holiday season. If you guys enjoyed the video, I'd super appreciate it if you guys gave me a thumbs up. Remember to subscribe by clicking on my face on top of the Santa bean. And if you want to keep hanging out, you can click on my video on the left side of the screen. Happy holidays, beans!